Okay, I'm going to start by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is our group learning program where I share the teachings of the Buddha, helping students to slowly understand the path to enlightenment. We use this book as a guide for our program where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter, helping students to understand the path to enlightenment. This week we're on chapter 6, which is titled The Middle Way, Walking the Middle Way. We start our classes with meditation, but then I'm going to move into a talk on the middle way. It's actually a very simple teaching, probably take me all of maybe 15 minutes, even 20 minutes to teach it to you. But the real power in it is how profound it is when you apply it to your life. So it's really simple to learn and understand. And then when you apply it, it just really helps you significantly. So I'm going to share that with you guys after the meditation. And as part of that, I'll open up to questions that you guys have related to that teaching or any other teaching on the path to enlightenment. So whether you're here or you're online, you'll be able to ask questions during our class. If you'd like to join for the meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. I have these chants on a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get one if you'd like to chant along. We use these as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Where during the lifetime of the Buddha, chanting was used as a learning tool to be able to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally as a way to commit them to memory because they didn't have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, all the things that we have nowadays to study. They didn't have those things. So because the Buddha spoke orally and the technology to write things down didn't exist, they needed some way to be able to remember the teachings, and reciting them through chanting was the way that they did that. So there isn't any rite or ritual or ceremony or worship or prayer. That's not what this is. Although sometimes people look at it that way, that's not the way that the Buddha used it. So it's important to understand how the Buddha used chanting, because then you can know that there's nothing mystical or magical here with the chanting. It's just a way today to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used as a learning tool. So if you look at the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and give out chants for students to be able to chant to him out of respect for him, because that would be the ego if somebody did that. And a Buddha, an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, they don't have conceit or ego. They think of everybody as being equal and the same. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all those other discontent feelings to this enlightened mental state where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, and this is a permanent mental state that you'll be experiencing for the rest of this life. If you had a teacher that helped you to do that, and that teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's where I suspect these chants actually came from, is his students, either during his life or after his death. So you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. And then after the chanting, you're going to hear me come in with some guidance to be able to help you during the meditation, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you in meditation while we're actually doing the meditation itself. So you'll be able to learn how to meditate while we're actually meditating. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear a certain sound. You might hear a car go by, a bird chirping, a dog barking. This is all completely normal. This is impermanence, because you're not going to be in a world where you're meditating and it's going to be permanently quiet. You're going to hear sounds that arise, they change, and they fade away. If you have a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll be annoyed or you'll be frustrated. But that's your own mind that's causing that. It's not the outside world. So you can understand that the world is impermanent. Things are constantly changing. And when you hear a sound, you just know that that's normal. That's the way the world functions. So you don't have to be upset or angry or frustrated or any of those other discontent feelings, because the unenlightened mind will tend to crave permanence. But you can understand the world around you is impermanent. And without that craving for permanence, then you can actually reside peaceful and joyful, understanding that this is the way the world functions, that things are impermanent. After we have that quiet period of meditation, then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where we'll start today's class, and I'll help you understand the middle way, walking the middle way. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these at different times because it's kind of like creating a tool belt and having them available for you at different times, because your body can't be in the same position permanently. You're going to need different positions at different times. So having these 4 positions is really helpful. But in terms of where people will typically start, that's in the seated position. They will typically learn in the seated position. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of guidance on that, so it will help you as you're here today. But just understand the things that I share with you are just things for you to consider, things for you to think about. It's not that you have to sit this way, because you can really sit however you like. Not everybody's going to sit in exactly the same way, because the world is impermanent and everybody's going to potentially have different things that they find comfortable. So you could sit on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. Any of these options are available to you. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to kind of soften your seat and make it more comfortable for you. And if you bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So you could do this if you like, but there's other options here too. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. And even with the legs, some people choose to put those off the mat, so it gets your hips up in the air and lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So there's many different ways to sit. You can find whatever's comfortable for you. In terms of anybody who's sitting in a chair, or if you're on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair, you can also sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect, because with the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic, and it could be hard for you to breathe in that situation. And if you are real rigid, the mind could be overactive and uptight. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So having the sternum up and the shoulders back will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, and it also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to chant to ease us into meditation. You guys are welcome to join in, and then afterwards I'll come back in with some guidance during the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Wat Tung Mahakewanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno กาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามนุสนังพุโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโหตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิ สวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ If you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Good morning. Welcome to everyone online as well. As I was mentioning, today is chapter 6 of our book. It's titled The Middle Way, Walking the Middle Way, where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in our book, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. I've been teaching this program now for many years, but this particular iteration of the program, we restarted about 2 months ago. And if you're interested in learning the path to enlightenment and how to get to this enlightened mental state, this is oftentimes a great place to be able to start learning and growing and developing in this particular program, because over a 7-month period, I help students to gradually understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to make your way to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind. And this is accomplished through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think what's causing them to be angry or frustrated is the outside world. And you might firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated. But in reality, it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is why you can actually eliminate them. If it was other people who was causing you to experience certain feelings, you would never actually be able to eliminate them. So the Buddhist teachings help you to train your mind and purify it of the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. Not only will you have eliminated the discontent feelings and experience peace and joy, but you'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will be really blossoming because you don't have bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind anymore. So you're not putting that out to other people. You'll notice that your mind's focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory because the mind will be performing optimally when it no longer has these pollutions of the mind. So the teachings of the Buddha start with something called the Four Noble Truths. This is where you understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. He explains to you that every unenlightened being is going to experience discontentedness. There's going to be pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. And these are teachings that you can independently verify. There aren't any beliefs in the teachings of the Buddha. You can see that your mind experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. Then there's painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, feelings like this. These are very painful to experience. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant, like shyness or uncomfortableness or dissatisfaction. This is the problem that every unenlightened being is experiencing. Their mind's going up and down and up and down. You'll have peacefulness and calm here and there, but it's only a matter of time before something happens that you might be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. But there's a solution for this. But in order to understand the solution, you need to understand the cause. What's causing these discontent feelings is craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning. It's chasing after the objects of its affection. It's wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. And when you get things the way you want or expect, you get happy, you get pleasant feelings like excitement. But then when you're not getting what you want or what you expect or what the mind is longing, yearning for, you get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And the mind is craving permanence, but yet you live in an impermanent world. The mind is craving for that relationship that you were in to be permanent. And when the relationship is over, the mind struggles with that because it's holding on and craving permanence. Or if it's sunny outside, you'll be really happy. But then when it rains, you might be sad or frustrated because the mind's craving permanence. It wants this sun to be permanent, and the world just isn't constructed that way. Or if you have your bank account balance up here and you're really happy, but then when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's actually happened is change. That's all that's happened, is it's changed. But if the mind is craving permanence, it doesn't like that change. The unenlightened mind doesn't have the wisdom to understand that it lives in an impermanent world. So as long as the mind is craving permanence, it'll keep going up and down and up and down. So the Buddha teaches you to be able to independently verify this, to look at your own life, to see situations where you've been angry or sad or frustrated. In those situations, you might have been trying to blame other people for the feelings you were experiencing. That's common. The mind will push people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, or you might put your expectations on people and try to pressure them to do things your way. In fact, people might be doing this to you. But you can look at that situation and you can see there was something your mind was longing, yearning for. It was wanting or expecting something. When you showed up to the airport, you were really wanting to go to Thailand maybe, but the flight was delayed or maybe it was canceled, and now there's frustration. It's not the airplane company or the pilot or anybody that's causing that. It's not the outside world. What it is the mind's craving for this plane to take off at an exact time. And it's not possible for that to occur. That there's going to be some planes that take off on time, but there's going to be some planes that take off late. There's going to be some that take off early too, right? So as long as the mind's craving permanence, when there's a weather issue or a maintenance issue or a crew issue, the mind will be struggling with that because it doesn't like this impermanence. It's craving permanence. It's wanting and expecting this plane to take off at exactly a certain time. And it's just not possible. If you travel enough, you're going to experience delays. Right? This is normal, but the mind doesn't like that because it's longing, yearning, it's chasing after things, wanting things to be a certain way. So when you understand the cause of the problem is craving, desire, attachment, then the solution to that is to eliminate that. If you eliminate the longing, yearning, and chasing and wanting and expecting things to be a certain way, you can get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful all the time. And the way to do that is through something called the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the complete, perfect plan that the Buddha teaches to be able to guide you in eliminating this longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection. And when he teaches this Eightfold Path, he starts to describe it as the middle way. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the middle way. I'm going to help you understand this very simple teaching. There's many teachings from the Buddha that are very deep and very complex. This isn't one of those teachings. Those deep and complex teachings need to be able to be understood. They're actually have been made more complex by some people, but when you get back to what the Buddha actually taught, they're actually very straightforward. When you're learning with his original words and you have guidance from a teacher to be able to help you, you can actually understand his teachings. They're pretty straightforward and they're actually readily accessible for you. This particular teaching that I'm going to share with you, it's very straightforward, and it's real nature of being so profound and powerful in your life is because it's so simple. Because it's so simple to understand and apply in your life, it can be very profound for you. So I'm going to share with you guys this topic of the middle way, but I was interested to make sure you at least had a little bit of an understanding of the Four Noble Truths so that you can understand it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because what the middle way is going to do for you is going to help you to come to the middle where you can experience peace and joy. But you're going to need more than just this teaching in order to be able to experience the complete peace and joy of the enlightened mental state. I'm going to stop at the end of teaching and sharing you guys the middle way. I'm going to end, because as I mentioned to you, it'll only take me like 15 minutes or so to even teach that to you. And when I do, you guys are welcome to ask questions. We have microphones here in the white bowl. If you came and get on microphone, if you press the gray button, the lights will come on. You can hold this up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And you can have these microphones back at your seat because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can share the microphone. And if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that'd be really helpful so we don't get feedback from the speakers. If you speak here without a microphone, the people online won't be able to hear you, so it'd be wonderful if you could use a microphone. And for those of you guys that are online, if you'd like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, there was a particular student at one point that was asking him questions about the mind and training the mind. And he helped her to be able to understand this middle way, because she was an individual who played a stringed instrument. Prior to learning with the Buddha, she used to play this stringed instrument. And the Buddha asked her, when your string is tuned kind of loose on this stringed instrument, does it play beautiful music? And she's like, no, it doesn't play beautiful music. The sound isn't quite right. And he said, well, what about when that string is tuned really tightly? Does it play beautiful music? Does the instrument play the way it was intended to play? And she said, no, it doesn't play beautiful music when the string's too tight. And he said, well, what about when you tune that string perfectly in the middle? How does the instrument play then? She's like, oh, it plays beautiful music at that point. And he said, same thing with the mind, that the mind, when it's holding on to things too tight, it doesn't function well. But when you hold things too loosely, it doesn't function well there either. It's only in the middle that the mind can be peaceful and joyful. So he taught this middle way based on this instrument, that an instrument isn't intended to be too tight and it's not intended to be too loose. You need to tune it perfectly to the middle. And that's the same thing you need to do with your mind, is you need to bring the mind to the middle. So the Buddha is teaching you to walk this middle way, this path that leads to a certain goal or a certain objective, to this enlightened mental state. There's various things in your life that you're maybe walking towards, certain goals or objectives. And there's this middle way, there's this pathway that leads to that particular goal or that particular objective. But if you hold it too tight and you're forcing and chasing and rushing after that thing, you're not going to be able to experience the peace and joy, because your mind's chasing, and you almost get exhausted and tired sometimes chasing that particular thing. But also, if you were too loose about things in your life and you could care less and you were lackadaisical about them, you're not going to be able to experience the peace and joy there either. So there's a middle way with every single aspect of life, whether it's pursuing financial goals, whether it's a career, whether it's your friends or family and spending time with them, whether it's maintaining a house or a car or any number of aspects, even this path of enlightenment, going towards enlightenment and walking towards enlightenment, you need to be able to do it from the middle way. Whereas if you were to chase this enlightened mental state and really be chasing, you're not going to get to it. But if you sat around and you were lackadaisical and you didn't really pay attention to what's going on in your life and what's going on in your mind, and you weren't really attending to your mind and learning and growing and developing as a person, you're not going to be able to experience improvements in your life there either. So there's a middle way, essentially what we might call today a balanced lifestyle. right? A lot of people talk about this sometimes, living a balanced lifestyle. Well, what is that balance? Where is the balance? Well, when you come to the middle and you're practicing the middle way with any particular aspect of your life, that's where the peace and the joy will come in. It's almost like the mind takes a breath of fresh air. So if somebody bought a brand new house, for example, and they were really holding on to this house and they wanted this house to look a certain way permanently, and they were vacuuming the house 2 or 3 times a day, every little scratch mark, they would fix it with some paint, every little dust, they would kind of, wipe this dust away. This is the mind holding on to this house really tightly. And now they're going to be obsessively trying to keep this house looking a certain way. But also, if you were on the other side where you could care less about this house, that you invested all this money and now you could care less what's happening to it. The shingles are falling off, the paint is chipping, you're not really cleaning it and taking care of it. You're not going to have peace and joy there either. So there's a middle way here that each person needs to find. What is that middle for them as it relates to taking care of your house, for example, or your relationships, right? Say you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. There's a middle way there in terms of spending time with each other. If you were to spend time with that person excessively, maybe you're seeing them every single day. Maybe you're calling them every single day. Maybe you're talking on the phone with them every single day and holding on to every last little word that this person says. And when they're sending you text messages, right away you're grabbing the phone and you're right there looking at it. Your mind's going to be obsessive here, and it's going to be holding on, and you're not going to be peaceful. There's going to be stress and anxiety there. But if you're on the other side and you could care less about the people that you interact with, and you weren't really, paying attention to your relationships, you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there either. So you need to come to the middle, and that middle is going to be unique for each individual, and you need to find that middle. And once you find that middle in any particular topic that you're pursuing, it's going to shift and it's going to change because of impermanence. So this pathway here, you can see that the pathway, it starts off kind of straight as it's going right towards the mountain, but then it kind of starts curving, and you need to be attentive to that. Right? So let me give you an example. Let's just say somebody was quite wealthy and they were practicing generosity, because this is something that the Buddha teaches, is to practice generosity. And maybe they're giving, say, $5,000 a month to an orphanage, right? And now this is something that they do to practice their generosity. And now they've been doing that for many years, and they're really pleased that they're able to offer this extensive amount of money to this orphanage. And it really makes them feel great that they're able to support this orphanage and help this orphanage to be able to provide the things that they need. Well, maybe they've doing that for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but now let's just say they've had a financial change in their life. Maybe their kids are going to college. Maybe their parents are getting elderly and they need to support them to be able to have medical care. Maybe their job has changed or something like this. And now because of impermanence, they no longer have that same level of income. Well, if they kept spending that $5,000 a month to be able to give to the orphanage, eventually they're going to deplete their resources and they're not going to have what they need to be able to sustain their life. But if they were all the way on the other side of this, where they were never sharing with anybody. Maybe they're just accumulating their wealth. Wow, look at my bank account just growing and growing and growing. And they're forming all these feelings just based on watching their bank account grow. Well, in this situation, the mind's quite selfish. And now it's holding on to the money there, right? Over here, it's holding on to giving away the money and sharing it with other people. Or over here, it's holding on to the money itself and just watching it accumulate. And in both of those situations, there's going to be stress and anxiety. But there's a middle way here, that if somebody's giving and sharing, and say they're sharing this $5,000 a month, well, now that their financial situation has changed, because impermanence, things will change. Now they can change their decisions. They can say, you know what, I can't afford this $5,000 anymore. Maybe I'll bring that down to $2,000 or $1,500 or something like that. And now that's the middle way for that period of their life, that they feel that this is kind of more balanced for them. That's what you're looking for, is balance in your life, where you're not holding on to things really tight, but you're not doing this really loosely either. And you like to do this with all aspects of your life, whether it's your professional life, your social life, your personal life, maintaining certain material possessions that you have. You need to find this middle way and strike this middle way. because you're going to need to spend time with your family. You're going to need to spend time with your friends. You're going to need to go to work. But if you do any one of these things excessively, it's going to take away from any particular part of your life. So you're going to need to find the middle way with each one of these topics. Whenever you're struggling, whenever you're having difficulties, whenever you feel pain or stress or anxiety in your mind, it's because you're not in the middle. You need to look at that situation and be like, what's going on here? What do I need to shift here? Because you're either on one side or the other. So if you're noticing that you're spending a lot of time with a certain friend or family member and you're experiencing stress and anxiety here, that means you're spending too much time. Throttle that back a little bit. Or maybe you're not spending much time with your family and you're feeling stress and anxiety there. So you can bring that to the middle a little bit. And then once you get to the middle, you need to be able to understand it's going to change based on the certain goals and objectives that you have in your life. So this middle way is going to be constantly shifting, and you need to be attentive to it and then walk your way towards this peace and joy that the Buddha shares. So at one point, the Buddha, when he was talking and teaching, he was describing this eightfold path as the middle way. This is his middle way of how to get your mind to be able to get to the middle and stay there. Even though it's changing, it's the middle way. And now this is going to hone your mind and dial it in so that now you can experience this middle way of this peace and this joy. The Buddha didn't teach rules and commandments. He didn't teach rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship and prayer. He taught you to train your mind. And this is the training that he prescribes and that he helps you to be able to understand. It's called the Eightfold Path. These are 8 individual factors: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. When you learn what each one of these are, because there's words of the Buddha behind each one of these, this is the middle way. And when you train your mind using these factors, it's like honing your mind. If you had a speaker system and you were trying to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers, and there was 8 individual dials, you would kind of tweak these dials to get a better and better sound out of the speakers. And it's the same thing with your mind, that you can kind of tweak these 8 factors in your day-to-day life, which is going to hone your mind and bring it to more peace and more joy, to the point where you've eliminated your discontent feelings, where you experience that focus and concentration and clarity. But you can't experience that when you're holding on to things too tight or you're holding on to things very loosely. That's why you need to come to the middle and work towards things as a goal, objective, or interest. Now, this word goal is oftentimes misunderstood. People sometimes will have a certain, what they're calling a goal, and if they accomplish it, they're really happy and they're really excited about that. But if they don't accomplish it, they're sad or frustrated or annoyed. That's not actually a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's a longing. That's a yearning. That's a wanting and expecting. And it's masquerading as a goal. A true goal is something that you can work towards. And as you're working towards that goal, if you're, say, 80% of the way there, you can maintain your happiness. You can maintain your peace. You're not forming your inner feelings based on whether you accomplish this thing or not. If you're 80% of the way to this true goal, you can maintain your peace and joy. And you can look at it, I'm 80% of the way there. Let me see. I could extend my timeline, give me some more time to accomplish this goal. I could apply some more resources to be able to help me accomplish this goal. Or, you know what? I'm 80% of the way there. That's really all I need. I don't need anything more. I can be completely comfortable with this 80%. I can move on to the next thing, right? So if you have a true goal, you can feel completely peaceful and joyful whether you accomplish that goal or not. So one of the goals of the Buddha during his lifetime is he was interested in sharing his teachings all throughout the world. He was interested in seeing the entire world understand his teachings. That was a goal that he was never going to accomplish during that lifetime. It was impossible for him to accomplish that goal during his lifetime because he spoke a language that the entire world didn't speak. He spoke a certain language that not everyone in the world spoke because there were so many different languages at that time. And travel was very challenging during his lifetime, 2,500 years ago. So he was working towards this goal for 45 years. From the age of 35 to 80. and he never accomplished it during his life. But he made wise decisions towards accomplishing that goal, realizing that it would be other people in the future that would ultimately help his teachings reach the entire world. And that's where we are today, that we speak an international language, that these teachings can reach the entire world. We have the internet to be able to send information from one part of the earth to the other in a split second, and we have the ability to easily travel, so his teachings can reach the entire world. So there's certain things that you might be needing in your life, certain things that you would like to work towards, and you can create a goal and you can work towards that goal, and just understand that some of these goals you're going to accomplish and some of them you are not going to, and that's okay. This is just impermanence. If you put expectations on yourself and you burden yourself with all of these expectations, you will chase and chase and chase and chase and chase and chase and chase. And if you get what you want, you'll be happy and excited about that. But if you don't get what you want, you'll be sad and frustrated. And it's not possible for you to accomplish every single goal that you set in your mind. In fact, when I was younger, one of the things I used to do is I used to actually set goals that I knew that I would not be able to accomplish. I knew that there was no way for me to accomplish this goal. And I would set this goal in my mind. I would do this multiple times, and I would work towards it. And I would intentionally do this so that my mind could get comfortable with not accomplishing goals, but instead working towards it. Maybe I got 60% of the way there, 80% of the way there, and I needed to learn how to maintain my happiness and my joy despite the fact that I haven't accomplished this particular goal. This isn't something that people normally do, but it's wise for you to do this so that you get comfortable with working towards something that you may or may not accomplish, and that's okay. You're not a failure. If your goal in life is to acquire wisdom, that means no matter what you do in life, it was successful. Because even in what somebody might describe as a failure, you've accomplished the accumulation of wisdom. You've cultivated the mind to acquire wisdom. And as long as you're acquiring wisdom in this life, it's never a failure. So if you're working towards a certain objective, like say a business goal, you try to start a business and you're working towards this business. And let's just say you go out of business in 2 years or 3 years and you need to close your business. That wasn't a failure because you learned wisdom. During that 2 or 3 years of period of time, there were plenty of things that you learned during that period of time that's going to help you if you decide to start another business someday. And now you'll be that much better in this next business because of the wisdom that you've cultivated. So you didn't fail in that situation. If you were working towards a degree in college, maybe you went 2 or 3 years in that degree and you decided to no longer go forward with that. That wasn't a failure. You accomplished learning a certain amount of wisdom. And part of what you learned there is, college isn't for me. I'm interested in this other thing over here, right? Or if you had a certain relationship, and maybe you guys were in a relationship for a number of months or a number of years, and then it ended. You weren't a failure. You didn't fail. It's just that there were things that you didn't understand, but there was certain wisdom that you cultivated in that relationship that now you can use that in other relationships and help these other relationships be more successful. So if you set your goal to always be cultivating wisdom, then that means you can never fail, because everything that you're doing is always to cultivate wisdom. So even in situations where you don't accomplish a certain goal, you've learned wisdom in that situation, and that was a success. So even in working towards a goal that you get to maybe 60 or 80% of that goal, you've succeeded because you've cultivated wisdom in that situation. And that's what the Buddha helps you to be able to understand, is how important wisdom is in your life. If you don't have wisdom, you're not going to be able to make wise decisions that lead to wholesome results, or wholesome Gama, the results of your decisions. Because in the unenlightened mind, we tend to lack wisdom. We don't understand what we don't understand. And when you cultivate wisdom, you'll be able to make wiser and wiser decisions in your relationships, in your career, and all these different places in your life, and it'll produce more and more wholesome results for you. When we're young, when we're 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, we lack a lot of wisdom. We don't really know anything about this world. We're learning to walk and talk and so many different things. We're learning how to eat. We're learning how to poop and pee in the toilet. We don't know any of this stuff, right? But slowly but surely we gain wisdom and we start getting to the point where we're kind of self-sufficient, right? And ultimately we get to the point where more and more wisdom is accumulated and we can go out into the world and have a great time. So wisdom is what's leading to improvement in your life. So as long as you're cultivating wisdom, it's a success. So this way you don't ever have to think of things in a degrading and diminishing way. You don't have to diminish yourself. You don't have to be guilty and shameful just because that relationship didn't work out, or just because you ended a certain job or some business that you were working on. Just because those things ended doesn't mean you failed, because all that is impermanence. Things are constantly changing in your life. Okay, so the middle way would be to understand impermanence, that things are constantly changing. And if you hold on to things real tight, when everything starts changing, you'll have painful feelings. But if you hold on to things too loosely and things are changing there, you're not going to feel peace and joy either. So you need to come to the middle way, where you're gradually walking towards certain goals or objectives. So I wrote this several years ago, and I posted it in Facebook. We have a Facebook group that students come to learn, and I figured I would just share it with you guys because I was trying to describe this middle way in text to be able to help people. So I just titled this, "Where is the Middle?" If you observe the mind as experiencing happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria, sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, boredom, loneliness, shyness, jealousy, resentment, etc., then move the mind to peacefulness, calmness, serenity, contentedness with joy. This is the middle, where the mind is unaffected by discontent feelings. Those pleasant feelings of excitement and thrill and exhilaration, the mind's not in the middle. It's up here and so excited. And then after that, you're going to swing down here to the sadness. So that's why the Buddha teaches you to come to the middle, where the mind is bright and cheerful and uplifted, and it's unconditioned. Excitement is conditioned. Based on some condition, you'll get excited. But when that condition is no longer present, the mind is going to move to sadness. So if you get really excited when your bank account balance is up here, when you experience down here with the bank account balance, your mind's going to be sad. Or if you get so excited about that brand new job that you've got, when the company goes out of business or you get laid off or fired, you'll be sad, you'll be frustrated. So as long as you're allowing your mind to get conditioned pleasant feelings, when those conditions change, it'll swing to the other side where the painful feelings are. So that's why I'm sharing here that when you notice the mind experiencing these conditioned feelings, you need to bring the mind to the middle where it can be peaceful and joyful, unconditioned, without any conditions being met. The mind can reside in the present moment with singleness of mind, peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, permanently, as one nears closer and closer to enlightenment through training the mind. The mind will be focused, concentrated, have deep memorization with clarity of thought and no discontent feelings. The mind will be at ease. That's how you'll know when your mind is in the middle, because it'll be at ease. It'll be peaceful, right? So, while one is learning and practicing to attain this mental state permanently, anytime you observe the mind is not in the middle, experiencing discontentedness, either conditioned pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant, actively apply right effort, eliminating unwholesome qualities and arising wholesome qualities to bring the mind to the middle, where it resides, only practicing singleness of mind, letting go of thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are unwholesome and discontent, bringing the mind to peacefulness, calmness, serenity, and contentedness with joy, so that the mind can be at ease. So this is what the Buddha teaches you, is that you practice mindfulness or awareness of mind. Your awareness of mind, looking over the mind, is kind of like a virus scanner on a hard drive on a computer. The virus scanner is looking at the hard drive, and it's just sitting there in the background doing its thing. You don't even know it's on most of the time, right? And now when a virus hits the hard drive, boom, it goes into action. It quarantines the files, it cleans them up and gets them off your hard drive, right? And that's what your mindfulness is doing for you. If you have this awareness of mind that's kind of sitting there in the background, just overlooking your mind at different times, whenever whenever you see unwholesome qualities come into your mind, that's where you need to spring into action, applying right effort to eliminate the unwholesome qualities and bring in the wholesome qualities. Because when you see your mind's judging other people and looking down on people, this is only going to harm your own mind. You would like to cut that off and eliminate it. Where you see your mind being angry and frustrated, you'd like to cut that off and let it go, eliminate that. As long as you allow those kinds of thoughts to persist in the mind, they're just going to keep happening over and over and over again. So whenever you're noticing unwholesome qualities like judging other people, looking down on them, anger, frustration, resentment, sadness, stress, anxiety, you can learn how to cut that off and let it go. That's what that meditation is that we just did this morning, where you're focused on the breath and the mind's moving off the breath. You're cutting off and letting go and bringing the mind back to the breath. That goal of that meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Because with the mind's craving, desire, attachment, it's holding on. It doesn't want to let go. In fact, it doesn't even know how to let go. But if you train your mind to let go, that's where the peace and joy is, and that's where you can move it to the middle. Okay, so I'm going to just stop here and see if you guys have any questions. Like I said, a very simple, very straightforward teaching of letting go so you can bring the mind to the middle and then navigate that middle as it's changing throughout your life. So if you guys have questions on this, let me know. Or if you have any questions about any other aspect of the teachings of the Buddha, you can let me know. If you guys could use the mics here, or for those of you guys online, you can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Anybody have any questions? Zeth, you have a question? Sure.
So this is a question of affirmation, really, because I've been studying with you for several months now. And last week I felt that I'd made really good progress because of an event that happened on the way travelling to studying. When I first came to study, I've had very little awareness of the teachings of Buddha, and I thought myself, somebody that likes to be on time. I've studied in management schools in Switzerland. Punctuality is very important there. And so for me, always on time. Mm-hmm. Now, I come from Bangkok. In Bangkok, we have a lot of traffic, you may know. And Chiang Mai has a lot less traffic. But the few times that I first came to class, I had challenges with traffic. I would have red lights. Now, between my house and here, there are 4 sets of red lights. And the first few times I would notice, I'd get the red lights. And for me, it started to build stress and anxiety, because the more the red lights, the later, the risk of me arriving late. So I was feeling this quite a lot. And there were certain occasions where I would get 4 red lights on my way. I would be very stressed and anxious and sit here calming down. But of course, I thought about it, and I learned about noble truth and identifying and sources of problems and eliminating them. So what did I do? Well, I set off earlier. I just left my house 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier, so that whatever the lights were, it didn't affect my stress and anxiety. And last week, I came on my way to the temple here, I observed that every light was green. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'd have been the same me, my identity, as 2 months ago, where I would be sat at red lights and I would be literally blaming the red light, thinking it's simple electronics. I have a first-class honours degree in electronics, by the way. So I lost all my logic. I was anger. I was blaming these red lights and really internalising everything. So when it came to this opportunity last week, where all the lights were green, I realised that I wasn't the same person. My thoughts were not extremely excited, and thankfully now I've got 4 lights instead of 4 red lights. Maybe that's my karma. Maybe I come to learn Buddhism and now the sun is out, it's looking down on me, I've earned merit. I think that's nonsense now in retrospect, but finally I've got something back. But I didn't feel like that. I saw it quite objectively and thought, well, no, it's simple electronics. Sometimes it's going to be red, sometimes it's going to be green. Don't waste your time thinking too much about electronics. Plan ahead and have more contentedness. Now, I think what we've said about the middle way this morning, I again identify very clearly with that, and I feel that I've made progress towards this. It's helped me disassociate with a lot of negative thoughts that I've had. Managing stress has become easier and so on. So in a way, this is a thank you for studying, for helping me learn and develop myself. And also, I'd like to sort of ask if my thoughts seem to be in the right direction towards enlightenment.
Sure. So this is the beauty in the teachings of the Buddha, is that you can start seeing that they're working, right? Because oftentimes we're taught to believe a bunch of things and then hope something good happens when we die, and that's not the way the teachings of the Buddha work. So you're starting to see these little situations where your mind's functioning more peacefully and more joyfully, and you're understanding the world around you, that things are impermanent. And yeah, sometimes the lights are green, sometimes they're red. That's what is truly happening, right? There's not some magical thing that now you're going to always get green lights. And it's wonderful that when you got the green lights, that you didn't allow the mind to get the pleasant feelings. Because if you allowed your mind to get the conditioned pleasant feelings when you had all green lights, well, when you had red ones, you're going to be experiencing painful feelings. So it's like, all right, sweet, I got green lights. This is interesting. Okay, we'll drive right through. We're headed to the temple. And now the next time, oh, okay, red lights. This is just impermanence. That's all it is. It's just change. And what you're talking about there too is the middle way, because if you push yourself to too close to the time that you're supposed to leave the house and you'd like to leave the house, that's going to be the mind holding on really tight, right? Whereas if you left super early and you got here with an hour in advance, now you don't have time to do all the things you need to do at home, right? So you've got to find that middle way. And even when you find that middle way, there's still going to be occasions where you come in late. And it's going to be okay, because there's no one taking attendance, right? And there's no one judging you and looking down on you. But you'll put that pressure on yourself that not only will you have that desire, that longing, yearning to be here on time, but there might be some personal existence view there where your identity is, I am someone who's on time. Your mind's been conditioned to think that that's the right way, and then everything else is the wrong way, and I don't want to be perceived that way, right? So you need to let go of all of that and just realize, like, hey, this is generally the time that I leave each morning, and sometimes I'm going to get there on time, and that's the bulk of what I'm going to experience. But there's going to be occasional times where you come in late. There was a time where I came in late here. I was like, it took me like an hour and a half to get from my house to here, where normally it takes 20 minutes. On this particular day, I think it was like around the holidays or something. It took me an hour and a half to get here. I walked in, it was like 9:30, and class was supposed to start at 9, and I normally get here at like 8:15, and I walked in at 9:30, right? And that's just the way it's going to be. That I aspire to be here on time, I work to be on time, but there's going to be situations where you're not on time. And you just understand that this is impermanence, and it's okay. And you don't have that craving, and that's where your peacefulness can be. But then also you're not lackadaisical, where you just mosey on in any old time, because in that situation you're not going to get the learning that you need, because you're constantly coming in late. So you kind of make efforts towards being on time with the full understanding that that's not going to be permanent, that sometimes you'll be late, and that's okay. Yeah, so good. It's good that you're seeing that progress for yourself. Yeah. And you see the microphone's not permanent too, right? It's kind of scratchy and it's cutting out every once in a while. Alejandro?
I wanted to ask you about the practice that we do every morning, that is meditation, and you let it go things. Mm-hmm. Is the same thing that you apply every day? For example, because I was trying to connect the same with, for example, I have craving for food, but I can breathe and let it go because maybe I want to eat only because I bored or other things, and I was trying to connect the meditation that you do in the morning also with the practice every day. Is related or
Yes, 100% related. You know how you take the body to the gym sometimes, perhaps? I haven't done that much in the last few years, but we take our body to the gym and we work out and we make our muscles stronger, right? It's the same thing that you're doing in meditation. Is you're exercising the mind to build qualities that you can then use later in your day-to-day life. So in your meditation, when you're focused on the breath, the mind focusing on the breath, that's the concentration. And now when the mind moves off the breath and you notice that, that's your mindfulness or your awareness of mind. Then when you cut that off and let it go, you're creating kind of an internal mechanism within your mind that you're able to let go. Because that's what the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to do. It doesn't know how to let go. So if you're training 2 or 3 times a day, upwards of 30 minutes, and you're building your practice that way on a consistent long-term basis, you're building this internal mechanism within your mind to be able to easily let go. So that way in day-to-day life, when you get stuck at the light, at the traffic light, and you're noticing some anger arising, let it go. No big deal. It's a red light, right? You can just let go. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you're not holding on and wanting to be here on time. You're not longing, yearning for it. That there's nothing to let go of because your mind has already let that go. And it realizes, hey, sometimes I'm going to be on time. Sometimes I'm going to be late, and that's okay. And you won't be longing, yearning for those kinds of things. Just using this example from Zeth. So you need to be able to, in meditation, to build that internal mechanism to cut off and let go, so that then in day-to-day life, as things are happening, you can cut off and let go. And if you do that enough in meditation and in your daily life, eventually your mind will let these things go. And now you can just function in the world without longing, yearning. Your mind will be practicing the middle way where you're just able to ebb and flow effortlessly in life. So this is an application of right mindfulness, where you have awareness of your mind, and right effort, where you're cutting off and letting go. And now your mind will do that readily because you'll notice that things are arising and you'll be able to cut off and let go. And this is where things get more and more peaceful.
You apply the same mechanism, or is different? For example, it does happen during the day, you focus on and you let it go, or you can use the same technique, or you do different?
You can, particularly early on, like you're early in your development, that like say, Zeth, can I keep using your example? Because it's a perfect one that everybody, in faces, right? So say you're driving, right? And you get a red light, and now boom, you hit the red light and you're noticing anger starting to arise or frustration. Yeah, right there, you can close your eyes. Focus on the breath. That's going to help you to cut off and let go, right? You can do that. That'll help you. But eventually, if you train your mind enough over multiple months and years, you'll eventually get to the point. Some people get to this point in a couple of months. Some people, it takes a couple of years. You can just internally cut it off. You don't even have to close the eyes and do all the breathing and stuff. But if that's what you need at this point in your development, use it. Right? I used that early on, where you can do that. And that's part of building that mechanism in your mind and taking the benefits of your meditation and bringing it into your day-to-day life.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions you guys have that you guys would like to ask? Remember, online, you can put it in the Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. No questions? Okay. Well, what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest in learning the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you're always welcome to come learn. On Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching or at least doing meditation with you guys. And then I'm going to open up to questions that students have. And then next week, I'm going to be starting a retreat on Sunday at 3 p.m. We're going to have about a 2-hour session on Sunday. But then on Monday through Friday, we're going to have a retreat from 9 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. p.m. each day, where we're going to be learning here from 9 to 12:30. Then we're going to have excursions from 12:30 to 6:30, where we go out into the community and apply the teachings, doing different things. And then from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., we're going to be learning some more here. This is a retreat that's titled Purification of the Mind. I'm going to be teaching what you need to be able to get to enlightenment, where the retreat I teach in January is everything you need to get to the first stage of enlightenment. This retreat is everything you need to do to get from the first stage of enlightenment to enlightenment itself. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be spending essentially an hour to an hour and a half class sessions on each individual fetter. What the fetters are, they're individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. I'm going to be explaining the symptoms of I'm going to explain to you what this fetter is, the symptoms of it, how to eliminate them, and how to know that you've actually eliminated them. So over the course of the entire retreat, an individual is going to be able to understand all the individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind and how to actually eliminate them. So this is a retreat that I teach once a year, where I teach other courses and programs all throughout the year. I have these retreats that I teach at different times during the year to really focus in on important teachings that you really need to move the mind in significant ways towards enlightenment. So you're welcome to let me know if you guys have questions. You're welcome to come talk to me after class. You can see our classes and courses and retreats on the bulletin board there. They're on our website. I really suggest students start with the very first book. That's the best place to start. And you can get it for free by all those methods that I mentioned. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.